Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I will show you 10 best movies ever. Have fun! Don't forget to subscribe. Satire, Doctor, Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. Satire is one of the most emotional classes out there in light of the fact that what's clever to certain individuals is either numbskull or hostile to other people. That being stated, a few things are impartially amusing, and the subsort that appears to get the most laughs out of a group of people is droll. In any case, droll is regularly the most minimal type of parody. Parody would be its inverse, as it will in general tap into a progressively educated idea of what makes something clever, and there aren't a ton of motion pictures that do this well. The film that shows improvement over some other is Stanley Kubrick's Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. The film is as senseless as Monty Python while being as dangerous genuine as Patton. Having the option to make atomic war entertaining is no simple errand, yet when you take an entertainer like George C. Scott and instruct him to do everything over the top, toss in a terrible circumstance prompting atomic destruction, and get Peter Sellers to play 3 separate characters, you have satire gold on your hands. Dealer's exhibition alone qualifies Drive. Strangelove is an undying parody, and keeping in mind that Monty Python absolutely merits notice, Kubrick's Strangelove is seemingly the best satire at any point made. Drama, Citizen Kane. It was referenced in the introduction, so you knew Citizen Kane will undoubtedly show up someplace on this rundown. Resident Kane was a film that stunned many individuals. However, not for the reasons you may think. Individuals were stunned at how fantastically great the film was, as Orson Welles created, co-composed, featured, and had polished product. The man had never coordinated a film. This one came out, so it wasn't an assurance that it would be a hit. That being stated, he was vigorously sought by RKO to do anything for the studio, and his agreement specified that he be permitted to coordinate 2 pictures. His first was seemingly his most prominent realistic accomplishment on various levels. Resident Kane recounts to the account of Charles Foster Kane, a well-off industrialist who passes on with single word all the rage. Rosebud. The film proceeds with an endeavor to figure out what his withering word implied. Strikingly, the film numerous pundits distinguish as the best at any point made was a film industry disappointment. It didn't recuperate its expenses and turned out to be to some degree darkened. It made more progress in 1956 after a French survey, which prompted a restoration. Science fiction, E.T. the Extraterrestrial. It doesn't have any of the astounding CGI you'll discover in an advanced science fiction film, yet that is the thing that makes E.T. something unique. Like most motion pictures from the mid-80s, movie producers needed to depend on puppeteering, and it says something regarding how well E.T. was made that seeing him harming in the film's 3rd demonstration can evoke a tear from even the hardest of hearts. The film is one essentially everybody has seen at any rate once in their life, and a portion of the scenes are so notorious. They've figured out how to totally saturate the zeitgeist in manners hardly any motion pictures would ever plan to emulate, a tale about a kid and an outsider who become companions, and unmistakably more is a story that some way or another reverberates, and it's one everybody can appreciate. The experience of riding your bicycle away from the miscreants is something children and grown-ups can relate to, yet when E.T. suspends them into the sky, the story gets supernatural. There are huge amounts of awesome sci-fi films, a considerable lot of which have star in the title. However, the thing about E.T. that gets it the top spot is that it's cherished by everybody who watches it. That can't be said of all sci-fi motion pictures. The same number of them have specialty crowds, though E.T. doesn't. Romance, Casablanca. For those individuals who think Casablanca is exaggerated as the top sentiment film, it might be a great opportunity to return and watch it again. The film is an eternal great. It's one of the most quotable movies at any point made, and it came out about 80 years prior. Casablanca is about a romantic tale that has an opportunity in hellfire of working out. And just one of the two individuals in affection recognizes that reality. The war is destroying the entirety of Europe and North Africa. However, amidst it, every one of a pessimistic American expat runs a bar and pines over the lady he began to look all starry-eyed at during a brief, yet significant tryst in Paris. The story is so very much created and nuanced. It's effectively a contender for being probably the best film at any point made. Different motion pictures were competing for this position, including An Affair to Remember, Titanic, Brokeback Mountain, and even Ghost fought it out for this spot. In any case, at long last, it's continually going to be Casablanca. Settling on this decision was troublesome. However, on the off chance that Casablanca didn't make it to the top, I'd think twice about it. Perhaps not today, perhaps not tomorrow, however soon, and for an incredible remainder. Horror, Psycho. Like each other classification of film, frightfulness has a huge amount of subgenres to browse. There are slasher flicks, mental anticipation motion pictures, and even incredible mysterious motion pictures like The Omen or The Exorcist. At last, the best frightfulness brings to the table goes to a film that characterized the class as one that could impart a feeling of dread in the crowd while causing it to appear as though the reprobate could be anybody. What Anthony Perkins figured out how to do with Norman Bates was to present a practical miscreant who could sincerely be your nearby neighbor, or the individual sitting close to you on a bus. Sure, he was insane. He spruced up as his dead mother who sat preserved in his home. However, that point aside, he was an appealing and alluring youngster. He was somewhat ungainly and appeared to be absolutely innocuous. So innocuous, you may have a sense of security washing up, regardless of whether it's the exact opposite thing you do. Psycho is splendidly composed, coordinated, and acted. Indeed, even the camera work was the absolute best found in a film up to that point in time. And it's anything but difficult to perceive any reason why Psycho is viewed as one of the best tension, blood, and gore flicks at any point made. Action, Seven Samurai. There's a truism that impersonation is the most noteworthy type of bootlicking. On the off chance that that is valid in filmmaking, Akira Kurosawa's undying exemplary Seven Samurai is one of the most complimented motion pictures at any point made. As its story has been adjusted into such a large number of movies, it's silly. On the off chance that you've seen Kurosawa's work, you realize that he will generally be perhaps the best chief ever. He put all that he had into his films, and his work proceeded to move any semblance of Kubrick, Scorsese, Tarantino, Lucas, Spielberg, and that's only the tip of the iceberg. His movies were epic stories loaded up with creativity and lovely settings that sound accurate with the platitude that each casing is a painting. Seven Samurai is a story you've likely observed previously. Regardless of whether you've never observed the film, a town is threatened by desperados and recruits on 7 to ensure them. It's the plot of The Magnificent Seven, The Three Amigos, and A Bug's Life, and it affected Hollywood movie producers for quite a long time. There are a lot of extraordinary activity motion pictures out there, and keeping in mind that the top spot could have gone to an all the more monetarily engaging film discharged moderately as of late, it's hard to pass this film by as probably the best story at any point put to film. Adventure, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Regularly, activity and experience are put together into a solitary kind, yet a few motion pictures should be isolated into their own sort. Experience is a sort with a great deal of alternatives. War motion pictures could fall inside experience, yet so could a western or even sci-fi. At last, an incredible experience film includes precisely that, an extraordinary experience. And there's no one better at going on an undertaking than Indiana Jones. In his first film, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Jones goes on a globe-spreading over experience loaded up with Nazis and Jewish archaeological history to discover the Ark of the Covenant. Throughout the film, This schoolteacher battles against a plenty of adversaries. He swims to a submarine, which fortunately didn't lower with him on top, and he burrowed through the pieces of information to discover an ancient rarity of such extraordinary significance, it was desired by anybody and everybody who knew about its reality. The film started one of the best experience establishments ever, and keeping in mind that a large portion of those movies are fabulous. The absolute first Indiana Jones film starts to lead the pack as the best experience film at any point made. Fantasy: The Wizard of Oz. The best dream film ever about went to The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, yet glancing back at all of the fantastic dream films from all through film history, the eternal great The Wizard of Oz takes the top spot. Like a portion of the contenders in sci-fi, some dream motion pictures don't speak to an expansive crowd. There are individuals out there who don't care for hobbits, mythical people, or anything identified with Dungeons and Dragons. Other dream films that could have taken a top spot of those including Muppets like Labyrinth or The Dark Crystal. The Wizard of Oz is one of those motion pictures everybody plunks down to observe at some point or another. Most observe it when they're kids, yet every one of that implies is that when those individuals grow up and have children of their own, the film returns out to engage another age while the Guardians watch Dorothy and her buddies with sentimentality. The story components aren't confounded, the melodic numbers are noteworthy, and the characters are the benevolent we recollect affectionately years subsequent to viewing the film. The Wizard of Oz is an immortal exemplary, and regardless of being over 80 years of age, it remains the best dream film at any point made. Musical: Singin' in the Rain. Musicals are a fascinating sort of film, as they regularly don't function admirably. What does well in a live auditorium doesn't generally move onto the cinema, and subsequently, a few people completely love musicals while different people routinely abhor them. Regardless of this, there have been various melodic movies which have proceeded to win a huge amount of grants, as they have delightful tunes, extraordinary characters, and by the day's end, an acceptable film is a decent film whether individuals are singing suddenly or not. The decision for the best melodic arrived on Singin' in the Rain. However, it similarly as about went to The Sound of Music. The two movies are fabulous stories, which perfectly exhibit fantastic tunes belted out by probably the most capable individuals in the business. At last, Singin' in the Rain got everyone's attention basically on the grounds that it includes some astonishing exhibitions and a cheerful story. The opposition includes a darker story, and it's difficult to watch Singin' in the Rain and not feel blissful, while the other film will in general lead the crowd in different ways. Animation: Toy Story. Enlivened movies can envelop any class, yet that doesn't mean there's not a solitary film equipped for accepting a top spot as the best energized film ever. Activity has been a mode for include films since the arrival of 1937's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and from that point forward, there have been a huge number of unimaginable energized titles. There are numerous to look over, yet the film that is all around dearest by youngsters and grown-ups the same would need to be 1995's Toy Story. There are a lot of motion pictures that could take the top spot here. Motion pictures like The Last Unicorn, The Iron Giant, The Secret of NIMH, or any of hundreds more. However, Toy Story accomplished something most energized films neglected to do before it. It splendidly overcame any issues among grown-ups and youngsters. By including the entirety of the toys Guardians played with when they were kids, the film figured out how to speak to the child in every last one of us. Kids adored it while Guardians waxed nostalgic about their tragically deceased Speak and Spell and Slinky. The film is a perfect work of art, and keeping in mind that the spin-offs are astounding, the first stands as the best vivified film at any point made.